Welcome to Ask the Tech Coach, brought to you by the TeacherCast Educational Network. If you are in charge of professional development and looking to build an innovative digital learning experience, this is the podcast for you. Join us each week as we uncover strategies that tech coaches are using to drive their digital transformations one classroom at a time. And now for your host, with over 2 decades of experience working with tech coaches and ed tech companies from all around the world, Jeff Bradbury.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the TeacherCast Educational Network. My name is Jeff Bradbury. Thank you so much for joining us and making TeacherCast your home for professional development. This is Ask the Tech Coach, a podcast for instructional coaches and digital learning leaders. I am welcomed today by my good friend, Miss Allison Peterson, author of the brand new book, Kickstart Your Coaching Cycles. We're going to be talking about this book and so much more. But before we do that, I hope you guys have a chance to check out all the great things that we're doing this year at ISTE. I'm looking forward to participating in the EdTech Coaches Playground. Also got an amazing Ignite session helping you guys kickstart and update your instructional coaching program this year, thanks to the ISTE standards. And you know what? We're also going to talk a little bit about this year's brand new National EdTech Integration Plans. I hope you guys have a chance to check out that stuff this year at ISTE. If you are going, don't forget to come by and see me. I'd love to take a selfie with you guys and check everything out. But first, my good friend Allison Peterson has stopped by the show. Allison, how are you today? Welcome back to Ask the Tech Coach.
Hey, Brad, Jeff, it's so great to have you, to see you. It's so great to see you and be on the show again. I really love hanging out on TeacherCast and talking about coaching, ed tech coaching, or instructional coaching, some of my favorite topics.
It has been a really strange year for instructional coaches. I know you and I both have the opportunity to meet with a lot of coaches, talk to a lot of coaches, console with a lot of coaches. I don't know if you're feeling it right now, but there's so many coaches that are excited to be new to coaching. But at the same time, and I want to start off the show this year, there's a lot of coaches that are sitting here going, I'm not coming back. I don't know what the deal is. My position is this or that. I'm going back into the classroom. A few years ago, it was, hey, I'm going into ed tech, but now it's budget cuts. So I want to ask you here, because I know you're deep into this, what is the status of ed tech coaching these days?
You know, it is exactly what you're talking about. What I see right now is an interesting, 360, because they brought on these coaches, they kept them for 3 or 4 years, and they feel like they're not getting the bang for their buck. And so these districts are putting the coaches back into the classroom and sending everyone back. And I think some of it was because of grants that were brought on, especially because of COVID. So I think what I'm seeing is those grants are starting to dissolve, or the 3-year contract, or some of that. But I also think, and this is very important since you're talking a lot about designing a coaching program, I think that they started something that they didn't design very well. And then their coaches weren't able to be as effective as they wanted to be. And so they are starting to dissolve the program before it really had a chance to get up and running. So I really hate to see that coaches feel like they're being forced back in the classroom. But I also encourage them every time that it is not a loss to go back to the classroom, because there are so many things they can take with them from coaching back to the classroom. And hopefully, if they really don't want to be in the classroom for, more than that year where they're forced back, that they could find another opportunity, because if they really want to follow coaching and pursue it, then there's other opportunities for them out there.
I echo that 100%. As you guys know, this past 18 weeks, I'm back in the classroom. But even though I'm doing the middle school teaching thing, I've adopted my district's science department, and I've been running professional development with them, and I've been helping them organize their Google Drives. And I feel in many respects, I'm being more of a coach in the last 5 or 6 weeks to these wonderful teachers than I have been successful in other places in my career, where even though you had the title, it wasn't as structured. I'm in a wing right now with 9 or 10 wonderful teachers around me. And because we have to interact with each other, I'm getting more coaching questions now than ever before. So if you are somebody out there who's going back in the classroom, you're still an instructional coach. You are still out there with all the knowledge of the world. And This is a great podcast. We're going to be talking about this in the next couple episodes coming up. And of course, Allison, you've got a fantastic community. Talk to us a little bit about your community of coaches out there. You've got some great things going on.
Yeah, no, I've been building a community in Facebook on Facebook groups called the #New to Coaching group for new instructional coaches for about 4 years now. And we've just gone over 11,000 members. And it's really been a place where new coaches who are just getting hired are finding some answers to their biggest questions. Of course, they go searching Google, they go searching YouTube, and they go to the Facebook search bar and they type instructional coaching and they find the New to Coaching group. And when they do, they land in a safe place to ask all of the first year questions and to get tons of advice and guidance that they desperately need. And they don't really know where to look for it. They don't know what book to start with. They don't know how to get started. They don't know how to talk to their principal. They don't know anything. They always come in and they say, I'm so excited about my new job, but I'm also so nervous. And I don't, prompt that, but I've had, just 10 that send me a DM this week that say, I'm so excited, but I'm so nervous, because it's so much unknown when you walk into that. And so the New to Coaching group is the kind of like place where you can land and not feel so lost like right away, because you just got some answers. And then when you're in there too, I do a lot of live streams, and I do just offer as much as I can to support new coaches, so that they get past the lost and lonely and confused part of this stepping into a new job, and really step into confidence and clarity is my goal for working with them. I just catch them as soon as they get in the group. I DM them and I start helping them right away, and I love it. I was DMing with some members today, so it's my favorite.
Talking today to Allison Peterson about her brand new book called Kickstart Your Coaching Cycles. Allison, what made you write this particular book?
Well, like I was just talking about, my new coaches that I work with in the New to Coaching group, they are in desperate need for answers to basic questions about coaching. And what happens right away when they step into the role is they get hit with overwhelm, lack of clarity, and resistance right away. And so I started by helping them inside the New to Coaching group with the Kickstart Your Coaching Cycles model, a way to get through some of that and actually start your coaching cycles. So I've taken that content that I've been teaching in the New to Coaching group for so long, that's been helping thousands of coaches try to get from lost, lonely, confused to I have a plan and I feel like I'm actually getting to coach teachers. And so I put that into book form, which was a lot harder than it should have been. And now I can hand it to new coaches as they're stepping into this role. So what made me write the book? The new coach who is just getting started, who is feeling lost and lonely, and who needs some guidance and support as she tries to figure out this new thing called coaching, and specifically helping her get all the way to the one-on-one coaching work where she will actually feel like she's going to be able to make that bigger impact that she really dreams about and that she came out of the classroom for.
Now, we are going to make sure that we have links to everything here about the book. You can, of course, find it on Amazon over at teachercast.net/Kickstart Your Coaching Cycles. We're going to make sure that we've got links to all of the great stuff that's happening over at Allison's network. Now, Allison, I want to ask you a little bit about writing the book. How did you go through putting it together? Did you work with other coaches to find the materials? What are some of the lessons that we're going to be able to take after reading the book?
Yeah, absolutely. So it definitely started by collecting stories from the members who I have interacted with in the New to Coaching group and in my Breakthrough Circle, and all the stories that they've told me about using the Kickstart Your Coaching Cycles model, which is actually called the Organic Coaching Cycle. It starts with using a Kickstart PD to try to attract some high interest runners and try and get them started in coaching cycles. And so I went and I borrowed those stories and started to collect them, and then used them to kind of illustrate each phase of the organic coaching cycle. So I start though by telling my own story. So I have a little intro and then I tell my story and it is an example in itself on like all the things that could go wrong when you start at your first year of coaching. And then how I found my way through using the organic coaching cycle. So that's kind of how I've tried to shape it, is to share my story and then explain the model with stories from coaches, real life coaches in buildings right now doing the work.
One of the things that I could tell you from being an instructional coach for 13 years is not every single building is created the same.
Oh no, not at all.
A position is built for you, and sometimes it's not. And sometimes you're in a position where one principal, I hate this term, but gets it, and some principals don't.
Yeah.
I recently was working with an instructional coach, and she was all eager to get ready and get back onto the program and looking forward to the next year. And I feel like Casey Kasem saying this, but then she got an email from her principal saying, "Hey, let's talk." And at the end of that conversation, she was told that she was being reassigned because the principal didn't see the value that she brought.
Yeah.
And that was devastating to hear. What do you say to those coaches right now that are looking to start those coaching cycles, looking to make sure that we're sharing our data, using our data, all of that stuff that you and I have been sharing with other coaches, but for whatever reason, the system just isn't working?
Yeah. One of the things that I talk to coaches about is understanding like the big picture data and then the classroom data, because your admin is worried about district level or school building data, and they want to see that move, and they expect to see it at this high level. And it feels almost impossible as a new coach. Maybe you're sitting in a leadership team meeting and they're talking about data, and you're like, how am I, one person, supposed to impact all that data? I don't even know how to read that data really, because I'm a classroom teacher. Usually they're classroom teachers who've come out of the classroom and they know how to do individual classroom data. They don't really know how to do like district level analysis. So, and they're gaining that skill as they step in. But what I try to help them see is that the only way to impact the high level district data is to do the classroom by classroom work. And so if you are needing to show your effort, your impact, what you're doing, it's working with teachers in the one-on-one coaching cycle model so that you can move that data forward in one classroom. You can collect data, all sorts of kinds of data, but let's just say it's something a little more concrete, like assessment data. And then you can show that you have been able to show a growth in students through the time you've been working with teachers. And so that should translate to district data if you're doing the individual work. And most of the time, coaches are caught up in a whirlwind that keep them from getting to the individual work. Or, like you've mentioned, a principal is not really supporting the individual work and is using them more as an administrator. And so that often becomes like the real source of the problem is if they can actually if their time is prioritized enough to get to the one-on-one work, then they will impact that bigger data.
Let's take a step back, because you and I both preach data, but I still think we need to define to everybody, what is that data, right? Is the data number of times working with a teacher? Is there another data point that you're looking for? You just mentioned classroom data versus district level data.
Yeah.
When you're sitting there working with a teacher, whether it be one-to-one in the classroom, modeling, what is this data that you're speaking of?
I mean, it actually looks at a lot of different ways. But so it can be more concrete, like actual assessment. So like pre-assessing students for where they are on a skill, like maybe pre-assessment before a math unit, and then post-assessment. So it can be like actual assessment of skill and assessment of learning, but a lot of times it can be qualitative data. So you are trying to help with student engagement. You're trying to help with student behaviors. You're trying to help with classroom management. When you're coaching those things, you are taking more of a qualitative data that is going to be more observing, right? Observing the actions of the students and how are they responding. But that's something too that you can also track and show improvement in. So like if you want to show engagement, and you can take that pre-assessment of how they are engaged in this first lesson, and then over multiple lessons working with a teacher, you can track and see how engaged they are, a few lessons later based on the new engagement strategies you've used. So it really depends on the strategy, how you're going to measure it. But the data can be really quantitative or really qualitative. And we use the map. So we use the benchmark three times a year at my school. And that's just so helpful to have a three-point benchmark. So we get that beginning of the year, fresh, new into the grade level. Mid-year, okay, where are we progressing? Where do we need to make adjustments? Who needs more attention? I talked to my teachers this year about that data not being so much about numbers moving, but about relationships. So if your data is not looking the way you want, then I was telling them, like, are you building relationships with this child? Are you connecting with this child? Do you know what they need? We need to pour into relationships to see if we can target not just the academic growth, but maybe the social emotional like connection between you and the teacher. So we worked on things like that. So it's so many layers. I mean, what would you say that it is? Data. It's so many things.
When I'm looking at data, I come at this from a different point of view, right? Like I come from the school of a coach is there to teach the teacher. And because, being a technology coach, I'd say old school sometimes, like my job is to go in and help the teacher learn how to use this.
Sure.
My background does not come from the instructional coaching where your job is to go in and help the reading scores out, where you are teacher focused, but your teacher focused sometimes through helping the students achieve. And I think a lot of times there's coaches that are not getting that. Even for myself, I have to step back and go, okay, we're here for the teachers, but we're here for the students. But really when we are trying to make our teachers more gooder at these different things. Right?
More gooder.
and I collect data as, again, how many times are we working together? Is there improvement? How would you rate things? I talk a lot about, staff assessments. Those are difficult things, I think, for for coaches to do on their own. Obviously, a coach can't just go to the teaching staff and say, take this quiz, right? And I know when you're talking about, data and student data, those are tangible items on either standardized testing or other field items that the district provides to you. So I know that there's not one single design for a coaching program, right?
Right.
And even in a district, you might be in 3 different buildings. And again, each principal might have their own concept. I need the reading scores up. The other one might say, I need the math scores up, and you're doing both.
Yeah. Yeah. I've had that where I work in independent schools. So I've had one school where I had 5 different buildings, 5 different principals, and they were all very different in terms of what they wanted the coach to focus on and work on. So it was a lot of brain switching for sure.
What do you say to the coach right now that, look, it is the summertime, but the market is still open, right? There are coaches listening to this that are sitting here going, do I start looking, right? Before the job hits me, should I start looking for that next job? Should I stay as a coach? Should I jump back into the classroom? What's my next step? Those coaches a couple years ago that were thinking they were going to jump from a classroom to a coach to ed tech, those jobs just aren't there. I mean, you look around LinkedIn right now, and the big news as we were coming on air tonight is, Flipgrid is shutting down. Like all of these different things are happening in the ed tech world. That stepping stone for coaches isn't there. What do you say to a coach right now who at the end of a difficult school year is frustrated?
Well, I actually have a whole video on this because it's so hard, and you will hit frustration in this role no matter what. There is no way you're going to be able to continue to pursue coaching and not find some frustration. And so my encouragement to that coach is to decide, is coaching your route? You have a lot of options. And so you have to go back to your why. Why did you come out of the classroom in the first place? And what were you hoping to do when you got to this role? And I often find that some coaches will move to the AP position. I've actually had 4 who are in my breakthrough circle recently move to an AP position, which I always want to cheerlead them in what they're doing. And I don't know, if most of the time they don't even seek that out, that lands in their lap. But they often think going up in that direction will be even a bigger impact. But it's a totally different work if you're going to AP. And it's the same way. If you're going back to classroom, it's a totally different work. So my encouragement to you as you reflect on the year is to ask yourself, where is your passion and what is your calling and what do you want to be doing? If you want to be working with teachers at the teacher level on professional development, instruction, and curriculum, and ed tech, you have to find yourself in the middle of the instructional coach role. If you go up to AP, you're going to be doing a lot more behavior management and admin. If you go back down to classroom, then you'll do classroom. So you have to really think deeply about what kind of work you want to be doing and what you think you're best suited for, and then pursue it. Also, if you have had a really terrible situation with your principal, my encouragement is there could be a greener grass on the other side. Not all principals understand coaching and know how to use it well. I want to believe in our principals, but I just don't believe that they always understand how to prioritize coaching. And so perhaps a different leadership would change your environment, which I know you've experienced a little bit of that, Jeff.
A little bit, I would say that. Now, Allison,
I don't want to go too far.
the book, we're recording this right now in the beginning of June. The book right now is available on Amazon. Again, we're going to head on over to teachercast.net/kickstart your coaching cycles. All the links are going to be over in our show notes for Ask the Tech Coach. What do you hope teachers and coaches walk away from this summertime after reading your book? Do you think this is a book that a coach is going to read cover to cover? Is this a book that a coach is going to have in their back pocket, maybe pull out chapter 6? Where would you start once you decide to purchase the book?
Yes, absolutely. So I do think it's going to be a quick read through this summer, because it really will not take you very long to read it. It's not that long of a book. It's about 120 pages, I think, when it's going to get printed. And so it'll be a quick read through this summer. And what you'll take from the read through will be the organic approach and the organic coaching cycle, that this work that we're doing is relationship based, and that it happens in a much more organic way than it does in the formality that you may see in some other, some other people who share about coaching may give you a more formal approach. And I'm going to give you the practitioner, the real life, this is how it rolls approach. And so the first thing I think you'll take away is that, oh my gosh, I thought this was going to be stressful and like really intense and formal. It's not what I thought it was. So I think you'll do that when you read it this summer. You'll feel better and more confident right when you're done reading the book. And then when school starts, you'll pull it back out and you'll be like, okay, I'm ready to start my Kickstart PD. I'm going to go back and read that chapter, which actually is chapter 5. And you'll read chapter 5 and get the checklist at the end, and you'll go and you'll set up your Kickstart PD. And then you'll be like, okay, what do I do next? And you'll read the next chapter about how you go get your exit tickets and you go process that and you go have a follow-up conversation. And so I guide you through each of the steps to organically get that coaching cycle started. And then what do you say when you get to the meeting? And so it's really going to be a guide for you when you get back in there and you're actually trying to do it. You can go back and read it, but should be, the goal is for it to be the biggest encouragement to you if you just read it this summer from front to back and be like, okay, I think I can do this.
That certainly should be the goal for every coach. I think I can do this. I know I can do this. We're talking today to Allison Peterson, author of the brand new book, Kickstart Your Coaching Cycles. And Allison, I know this isn't going to be the last time we have you on over the summertime. We're going to be talking a lot about some of the things that we can look forward to as we start this school year. But I do want to end today by asking some advice. If you are somebody who's new to coaching and you're listening to this episode and you're trying to figure out what could I be doing this summer to get myself ready, what would some of those things be?
Yeah, I am a reader. So personally, I would say I would give you some books to read. Kickstart Your Coaching Cycles being one of them. But I love The Coaching Habit. I don't have it up here, but it's one of my favorites. And it's really the book that will help you understand what coaching is truly supposed to be. Not just the educational version of coaching, because once you understand what a coach is truly supposed to do, you'll start being able to have better conversations with your teachers. And a lot of coaches like to try and get organized, Jeff. So I'm thinking that you should tell them a little bit about ways that they can get organized, because I think their tendency being teachers in the classroom, they don't have a classroom to set up anymore. They don't even have an office sometimes. I don't have an office. And so they need to tangibly feel like they're getting their life together. And so I wonder if some of the tracking tools that you have might be really helpful to help them feel like they're getting their life together, even though they don't even know what they're walking into yet.
And you're absolutely right about that. There are a lot of coaches that have the conversation piece down. They have the content piece down, but the one thing that they're trying to figure out is the organization. And what we've been focusing on here over at askthetechcoach.com is how do we help you spend more time with your teachers, more time with your students, and less time in your inboxes, less time in your drives. So we actually are putting together and launching this summer a brand new productivity system for not only instructional coaches, but also for digital learning leaders, a complete series of Notion dashboards that actually will help you keep track of all your coaching cycles, keep your teacher interactions good, and a number of other things that we can do. And don't forget to head on over to askthetechcoach.com for that stuff. Look for all of our instructional videos. And of course, subscribe to our YouTube channel. There's a lot of things that we can do there. Now, before I let you go, where can we find out more information about the great work that you're doing on the New to Coaching Network?
Yeah, you can really just go to Facebook and search in the Facebook search bar, #New to Coaching, all one word. And it's not the number 2, it's TO. So NEWTOCOHCHING. So you can search New to Coaching, and then you will find the group right there. You can also go to kickstartyourcoachingcycles.com to get the link for the book on Amazon. And then you can also, just come and be a part of the group. That's where you'll find everything.
And as soon as you join that group, you'll find a DM from Allison.
Yes, you will, because I DM every new member, and you might think I'm crazy, but I swear I've sent 11,000 DMs.
I would love
Facebook is going to block me eventually.
Very, very nice. Guys, I want to say thank you so much for coming out and checking out this episode. Of course, there's 260 some other Ask the Tech Coach podcasts. No matter if you're new to coaching, have been coaching for 13 years, or are just interested in the topic, check out all the great stuff over at teachercast.net/podcast. You can check out not only Ask the Tech Coach, but also Digital Learning Today and our brand new Jeff Bradbury show. If you'd like to be featured on an episode, please feel free to reach out over at teachercast.net/contact. We would love to have you featured, no matter if you're a coach, an educational technologist, or anybody that's doing some pretty cool things to make a difference in the world. Allison, one last time, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, Jeff.
And that wraps up this episode of Ask the Tech Coach. On behalf of Allison and everybody here on TeacherCast, my name is Jeff Bradbury, reminding you guys to keep up the great work in your classrooms and continue sharing your passions with your students.
You've been listening to Ask the Tech Coach, hosted by Jeff Bradbury of the TeacherCast Educational Network. Please reach out to the show with all of your questions on Twitter at AskTheTechCoach or online at www.askthetechcoach.com. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you don't miss any future episodes. And please take a moment to write a review in the App Store.